What's up, fitness family? Welcome to another episode of the True Fitness Podcast. Grab your favorite cup of coffee, grab your, you know, favorite knee sleeves, whatever you like to cuddle up with, because it is story time. All right. And I say that because at Dull Red CF, at Dull Red CrossFit, asked this question. You are a champ 3 times on the CrossFit Games team side. Also, you and your team battled and beat Frowning's team in 2017. Can you share a little on how that all came together in 2017? Well. I've kind of been avoiding this question in this episode for a little bit. I don't like to talk too much about it because it seems as that's what most people know of me for. And I certainly am very proud of that year, proud of that moment. It's honestly, it seems strange though, because it is the only we are the only team that ever beat Rich in the Mayhem. When he was on a team, we're the only team that ever beat them. So it's still a beautiful thing to see our affiliate's name in the middle of all their title runs on the good old, affiliate cup trophy, because it's like the hockey cup, right? It's like the Stanley Cup. They etch the name of the champions in it every year, and so ours is right there in the middle, Wasatch CrossFit. Now, in order to tell the story accurately, and I'll expedite this, so show me your patience and enjoy the maybe behind a little bit of my mind through my years in this space. But to get into the sport, it was very selfish for me. I wanted to win the CrossFit Games as an individual. I saw it in 2010. I became a part of it in 2011, all through Damon Stewart invited me to come to Wasatch CrossFit. He met me. He was going to start an affiliate where I played football at Weber State University. And he saw me in the gym doing a workout. He was meeting with my bosses about a partnership to create what was going to be called Weber CrossFit. And anyways, he was chatting with me, and I think he noticed, of course, my frame and my physique, and I was in there going hard at something. And he was asking me if I'd ever done CrossFit. And I was like, yeah, man, I'd heard of it. Hadn't really done it. I had already scheduled my L1. So I was going to get my L1 before the turn of the new year. And nonetheless, he'd invite me to go to his gym or whatever. And I didn't go. I didn't go. Fast forward, I got my level 1. And of course, I saw the open was coming up. CrossFit had announced this online way to compete. And I was like, cool. I mean, I don't even got to travel somewhere. Like, I can do this. I can figure it out on my own, like whatever. And I went to Wasatch CrossFit to do 11.1. So it's me, Damon Stewart, Tiffany Hendrickson, who at the time she was a Division I gymnast at Boise State. Honestly, one of the fittest females and mentally tough athletes that I've ever been around in my whole career. Football, doesn't matter, all those things. And we push each other. I end up finished second in our region. I finished second behind Chris Spieler in the open. I edged out Tommy Hackenbrook and Matt Chan and all these different guys that I'd watched, Pat Burke, Zach Forrest. Those guys. These guys are phenomenally fit, and I scored well enough to beat them in this open and go into the Southwest region. I ended up not qualifying for the CrossFit Games. I finished 6th that year. 2 of those guys that I literally just announced, they all went to the CrossFit Games in 2011. I did not, and I had no skills. I couldn't do handstand push-ups well. I couldn't kip them well. And so literally like 2 workouts just kept me out. I did well throughout the weekend, and 2 workouts were glaringly not good. I didn't know how to pace. So fast forward all that, I wanted to build this stuff. Damon Stewart sends me down to Salt Lake City to train with Tommy Hackenbrook. At the time, I'm a little bit defeated and prideful, and I'm like, why would I go train with him? I don't want to do that. He beat me. I like this nemesis style feel a little bit more than I like team style feel. So I'd always been drawn to, hey, that guy's down in Salt Lake. Cool. I'll keep this chip on my shoulder for him and his team. And I want to beat those guys. I want to show up to the competitions and beat them and not be a part of their team. It's just naturally how I'm wired. But I learned a lot because I certainly wouldn't be here even giving you this podcast, I don't think, had I not gone down to train with Tommy and Mike Kaziu and Taylor Richards Lindsay and Mandy Janowitz and Aaron Binion and the people who he had at his affiliate, Ali Cerruti and Mary Lampus. I mean, I could just keep naming some crazy fit people. Damon sent me down there. Turns out Tommy was going to put together a team that year. They wanted to go team instead of he had gone individual. Tommy Hackenbrook, if you guys don't know, took second at the 2009 CrossFit Games to Miko Salo. And he played football at Utah. He also owned U CrossFit at the time. So I go down to train with those guys. They want to put together a team. And fast forward, I train with them. I start going down there a couple times a week because I actually lived in Salt Lake and was driving to Layton to train at Wasatch CrossFit. So it just made more sense for me to actually spend time there. So I would train at the facility that I worked at, and then I would go over to Salt Lake U CrossFit several days a week. I learned from them. I learned about pacing. I learned about strategizing workouts differently. I watched so much. I mean, I was stealing and like just scraping every bit of things that I would soak in. How do they warm up? How do they eat? What are they doing? What are they not doing? What can I do better? What can I do more? Right? Everything was a lesson for me. And I'm so competitive that I just am hyper aware of everything, people in the room, how they express themselves, how they talk. I learned so much from these people, and they became some of my best friends. And a lot of us still keep in touch to this day. It's random, it's text messages, it's all the things, but I'm so grateful for that. And I swear I'm getting to this 2017 story. Don't worry. For 2012 and 2013, we decided to go team. We win the CrossFit Games. I've got amazing stories about each of those years. If you guys want to hear more about that, I can tell you more about that. Training stories, crazy training stories, wild stuff that happened, stuff at the CrossFit Games, ways that we put chips on our shoulders when it definitely wasn't necessary. No one else was on our level at that time, um, and just all the things. I would end up wanting to go individual in 2014. I tore my pec. If you're watching this on the YouTubes, got a nice little dent right there in my pec. We had ring dips in the regionals that year. I believe that 2014 was the fittest I had ever been. I believe that I was so knuckleheaded that I was overreached and overtrained going into what should have been a strong taper for me, but I wanted to win the Southwest so badly. And I'd gone head to head against Tommy Hackenbrook for 3.5 months in training, building up to it. And we knew where each other's strengths and weaknesses lied. We knew where I might be able to have time. We knew where he would have time. He had this natural competitive advantage because I think he had experience and he had more confidence in himself maybe than I did. But anyways, I hurt myself 3 days going into the competition. Hard lesson learned. I was doing fast ring dips. Him and I were rotating through some rings, literally just like it was touch-up work. It was easy. But again, I was slightly overreached to strain my pec. I missed out on the CrossFit. I believe 2014 was the best CrossFit Games we'd ever seen. Rich's last year as an individual. I wanted to be there so desperately, but I missed out. It was a great chip on my shoulder. The next year, 2015, I go as an individual. Boom. Awesome. Achievement. Loved it. Loved it. Great. 2016, I miss out. A little banged up. A little late to training. Miss out by 6 points or 5 points or something in the South, Super South region. Also, my teammates, people that I'd trained with all year, Tiffany Hendrickson, Mandy Janowitz, Michaela North, 3 women, 3 of the fittest, hardworking women that I'd ever met in my life, all missed out. Mandy Janowitz was a decathlete at Idaho State. Michaela North ran track and did hurdles at Weber State. I'm very close to her husband. We both were from the same gap of generational athletes from Weber State, so we knew each other. We ran in some similar circles. Tiffany Hendrickson, I already mentioned. I met her in 2011. I watched her go. She finished. She was in 2014. Tiffany Hendrickson was the 11th fittest woman on earth. All that considered, they all had a chip on their shoulder. What a great opportunity for me. I mentioned previously in 2012 and 2013, we had won the CrossFit Games at Ute CrossFit. Tommy Hackenbrook was by and large our leader. We were known as Hacks Pack. I got no problem following. I enjoy it. In fact, some of my most successful moments as an athlete have been where I wasn't the face of the franchise. I wasn't the leader. I didn't have to be the voice. So I could just do me. And then I could chirp in and I could chime in when I thought someone needed their butt kicked, or when I thought someone needed to be reminded of what accountability really needed, really was. Or I could tell someone off and not worry about what I said so much because I wasn't the face of the franchise. I loved that. So I loved those years with Tommy. But I did have this desire to prove that I could do it from the leadership seat. And that sounds selfish, and I hope that doesn't rub anyone the wrong way, but that's just how I felt. I also noticed and was hyper aware of who Rich was my whole career. I looked up to him and admired him in every way. I would go to Cookeville to teach level ones, and I got to train with him a couple times. He came to Salt Lake. He and James Hobart had been in Salt Lake a couple times throughout the last year and a half, like 2015, 16, through different events. And they would come and we'd train and we would do different stuff. So I had known him well enough to go back and forth and to see how he trained and to see what he was capable of in person. Certainly unlike any other human that I'd ever been around with and trained with. So I knew he was on a team. 2015, They won. His first year on a team, they won it. And I was like, there's no way. I'm individual at the games. I'm watching this unfold. Tommy's on a team at the games that year too, and I think they might have get third or something like that. Ute did that year because it was Tommy. A few of my other friends were on his team. Tommy, Jake Hutton, Brennan Fjord. And anyways, Rich wins it again. I'm like, nah, there's no way that he was individual all these years and now he's just going to keep taking team. Now he's just going to step in and start winning team. I'm like, man, that's crazy. Why'd they let that happen? So 2016, they roll out, and I think they might have had the largest margin of victory for teams ever. At that year was James Hobart joined their team that year. I think he might have been on their team in 2015 also, but that year it was like they were a phenomenal team. But I was watching, and Savon was with them. Savon was there following him behind the scenes, and I was very hyper aware of that as well. I know what media can do, and I knew at the time how powerful it was for CrossFit because I watched it. I soaked it all up myself, and I'd look at the listings of the views, and I knew how powerful it was. At this point, I'm working for Brute Strength. My friends founded that company, and I got to be with them from day one as the CrossFit coach when it came to the group programming and even some of the individual programming. While I was at the games for 2015 and beyond, I also had CrossFit Games athletes I was overseeing their programming for and helping to develop. So it was a wild journey. I mean, and I'm talking masters, teams, and even individuals. It was amazing. But all that said is I recognized the opportunity for career branding and all the stuff. I go to these three women after the 2016 regionals where we're all upset and a little disappointed. I'm like, hey, would you guys want to go team? Would you guys want to go team and win the CrossFit Games? And I arrogantly proposed it that way, but with confidence, not like ignorance. I'd done it twice before with Tommy, and I saw how he worked it. I saw how he managed the humans. I saw all the things, and I experienced it myself. And the women were all very honest in regards to like they had no desire to go to the CrossFit Games on a team unless we were going to win. So that, but they gave me that, right? Like they gave me that clarity. And I knew that we could with these three women because they were so fit and so focused. Because in case you don't know this about teams, men carry a lot of weight. Men, I don't want to dismiss what men can do. Of course, I am one of them. However, when you have excellent women and they are focused and psychologically and emotionally, they can be steadfast and you've got the right people in place to balance each other out, the women will really be the largest dictators because that's where the largest margins of separation still exist in our sport today. With all that said, Brennan Fjord and Mitch Spute were the other two men on our team. And Brennan was on pretty much from the jump street. I always will lift Brennan up in such a way that I think he was one of the most physically gifted and hardest working people that I'd been around. But he was very much led by the influence of his peers. If I could get Brennan around me more often and training around me and around Mandy and around our team, Brennan could touch new levels. He's also one of the most committed team people that I'd ever been around, meaning that he's actually physically his most gifted when you're relying on him. If it's just him on the outcome and we're in a sport where you got to suffer and like grind and it's all for his glory, he's not really sweating that. But if it was for the team, he will do whatever he needed to do to answer the call for the team because he knew we were depending on him. And he's a football guy, Division I football player, just like me, played at Southern Utah University. So we had all that. Him and I consider peas in a pod. Like no better human being from a physical performance perspective and character perspective that you want to have in a room with you. He's just one of those guys. Mitch Spute had never competed at the CrossFit Games, had never competed at a regional or a semifinal, and had barely started CrossFit approximately a year before going to the CrossFit Games on our team to win the Affiliate Cup. Mitch is someone that I coached when he was in high school. One of my very first clients for speed, performance, and agility. He was in high school. He played football at Davis High. And I had known him through that. He wanted to dabble and get into CrossFit. He said he wanted to compete. And I said, awesome, cool. Meet me at the gym at 6 a.m. This was on a Saturday when we were essentially just getting competitors together at Wasatch CrossFit on Saturday mornings early before the classes hit. We would go down, throw down, and then have the rest of the weekend. But I just invited him on a whim. I wasn't like, yo, I'm going to coach you. It wasn't like, cool. You say you want this, show up at 6. We'll see what happens. He showed up at 6. He grounded through the workout. He suffered through the workout, just like all of us. Scaled some things, changed some things, of course, but he did it. And then I was like, hey, if this is something that you're really interested in, you need to come to the class. So he started coming to the class. I told him he could do extra stuff. He could come train with us sometimes, but he needed to do CrossFit. And so he did CrossFit. He did this for months. As he's doing this for months, we actually had someone different in mind that was going to be the third male on our team. Mitch started training, not just training, but training with me. When I showed up to the gym, Mitch showed up to the gym. He had this desire to improve that far outweighed any other life choice that he was willing to make at the time. And I kid you not, if I was at the gym, hey, Mitch, I'm going to the gym. He was at the gym. Hey, Mitch, meet me in my garage. He'd meet me in my garage. Right. So there was something special about his attitude and his draw towards being great in the sport that, man, really excited me. So I was very honored to oversee his tutelage. I had no idea that he would be ready or capable to be on our team and help us win the CrossFit Games that year. Long story short, this third male on our team was unable to meet the demands of our training, meaning that he had children, he had a profession, and he was living that life. And it was hard for him to find balance and also still be there for his family. Now, all of us had families, almost all of us had children. Well, three or four of us had children already. So we all understood that. But we were still able to meet the demands of training time and training time together as a team. And we knew that was going to be important if we wanted to go to the games knowing that we would win. All that considered, that made us make the switch to Mitch. And so Mitch was brought in, tremendous pressure. Every day it was deer in the headlights type situation. So for me, as kind of team leader, team mascot, it was my job to make sure that everyone was psychologically and emotionally prepared, not just physically prepared for what was about to come. So we did things on a daily basis that put pressure on each other. We had lineups where, like, I would play games, like, in my head, pretend that what if the final is, 6 matchups of 1 versus 1 in a CrossFit workout? Who would I match up where on Rich's? Who would I match up with this person with these movements? Like, I kid you not, I geek out on this stuff like you wouldn't believe, and I don't have the time to go in down the rabbit hole about those things. I didn't want to initially identify myself as a team captain, although it was pretty natural, I believe, and quite obvious. Nick Fowler, again, one of my brothers from another who was with me at Brute, he oversaw a lot of our individual design at the time, meaning that, like, I would write up all of our team workouts and the stuff that we did together, and he would help specific aspects of our development. He helped oversee my individual programming, Mitch, all the girls, because we all had some specific things that we had to continue to work on all the way up until the CrossFit Games in order to be the most well-rounded versions of ourselves. And then, of course, I would do the stuff that we needed to do together in person. But Nick put us through one session that I'll never forget. And the rubber met the road that session. We weren't communicating well. Nick pinned us in a situation where we were all physically uncomfortable. Emotions took over. People were yelling at each other. We dropped a worm several times, not on purpose. And the workout was we did this on purpose to put our backs to the wall to make it hard. But essentially, the workout was like, we didn't know what was coming next. For example, it might be like, get the worm to your shoulder, push press, go. And we would just push press and we just keep push pressing. And he would be like, cool, thruster. And we would thrust him. We didn't know how many we were going to do. And then he might yell out a number, 15. And then we put the worm down. And then he'd say, run the worm 200 meters. Cool. Right? Like, it was just rep after rep, thing after thing. But the intention was to put us on our heels, to make us communicate, to make us think on the go, to make the competition, when we could decide these things, so much easier. Because if it was going to be just us limited to our physical capacity, we were going to win. But we had to take care of the mind and the emotional side. So we did that all the time. And it was hard and it was challenging. But I remember we had this side conversations, and Nick's like, hey man, who's leading this thing? And I think it was very obvious that, and everyone, I never wanted to say me. I never wanted to be the leader. I never wanted to do it and be like, cool, this is mine. That's not genuine. I'd been a captain 2 years while I played college football. Both of those, my peers selected me to be the captain. I was not going to have this be any other way. So we were at a position where everyone was just like, cool, Adrian, in these moments, you take charge. Cool. Awesome. I'd love to do it. Let's go. And I think that gave us a little bit of leeway in regards to how we were going to attack the rest of the summer, how we were going to go through semifinals, and how we were going to execute. And we never wanted to win the Open. We never wanted to win semifinals. We wanted to certainly leave no doubt, right? There were aspects of what we wanted to do where we wanted to win all the workouts head to head. We didn't care about what Mayhem did at their semifinal or what CrossFit New England did or what CrossFit Reebok One did at their semifinal. We were worried about winning and beating head to head opponents, and burying them if we could. But we were focused on the CrossFit Games, and that's it. And that's how it happened. Now, there's stories about the CrossFit Games itself that were wild and in detail. I think that we knew we were going to beat them the day before the games, because we'd watched some things happen and unravel emotionally just in walk through the obstacle course on their team. And what I thought it showed me is that there was pressure for them. They felt pressure to perform, probably because they were on the team with the GOAT. And I'm not talking about the GOAT. He had got no problem performing, right? I'm talking about other aspects and members of their team. And I pointed it out to my team. And I said, "Do you see that?" And I wanted them to see that. And I wanted them to understand that we needed to do what we could handle and what we could control, and it would work out just fine. Never let the moment get bigger than it is. And there were a lot of like private moments leading up. 2 weeks out before the games, I sent a lot of text messages to my teammates to make sure their head was good, or we had heart-to-heart conversations about what was important and how we were going to execute and all these things. And it sounds probably over the top. I don't know. As I'm saying it now, I'm like, gosh, okay, like we made a pretty big deal about this, but it really changed my career. It gave me validity in a space, and I always had this vision for what opportunities lead to next. And so it was really important for me. I wanted to win money for my teams. They all had families, they all had careers, and if they spent all this time doing this thing and we didn't have a financial return, like I was going to be disappointed in myself and coming through for them. I had sponsors. I had sponsors who were going to match some money that I could win. I wanted to win money, right? Like all these things. And so the pressure was certainly there. And so we treated it as such. And so it wasn't just like show up and have fun. It was very focused. And we only went there for one reason. And fortunately enough, it was able to play out. We did go back and forth with Mayhem a good bit, but there were workouts where we beat them so badly that we were taking pictures while they were still on the floor and they finished second. Right. Or there were workouts where it was like we didn't even there was a sled workout, like we didn't even have to go hard at it intentionally. So we were trying to save ourselves for the next workout just because we knew we would win that. And so there are things where we took the floor and we knew that they couldn't beat us. We didn't. So go look at the final scores. We didn't even have to. Only 10 teams took the floor. So they were already out of beating us. We already had it wrapped up. So we were out there. I told my team before we went, enjoy the moment. It doesn't matter what happens here. I don't care what score we get. Enjoy this moment. We'll never be out here again together. So we did. So that's a little bit of the story. I could talk about it again. I'll probably rather not, just in this way. It's a little awkward. It feels too boastful or too braggy, but yeah, 3 affiliate cup championships. I've loved every one of them. All of them were different. The stories are endless though. So I appreciate you asking the question. I hope this brings some value if any of you guys listened to this all the way through or watched it all the way through. But it was an experience I will never change. And I continue to learn so much from all the teammates that I worked with, programmed for, trained with, did all the things that helped me bring value as a coach, as a broadcaster, and even to level 1 and level 2 seminar staff, because all of it was certainly pertinent and meaningful for me. So shout out to everybody who was always on the journey with me. I learned a ton from every one of you, and you've given me a lot of opportunity for the things that I do now as a coach and as a leader. So I'm forever grateful. And, now that the GOAT has retired, we'll have that identity as being the only team to ever beat the Mayhem at the CrossFit Games. So have a great one, guys. Keep rising.